It's a momentous day in global economics. The US, long the top dog in the economic league table in the world, is about to lose its spot as top dog. China is going to overtake the US.
Let's make that now the present tense, you see, because it's not really new, but it has been ballyhooed over the last 24 hours or so. The economy of China is now officially, undoubtedly, and without question, the #1 economy in the world. Horror, shock, and gloom descends on this great nation, or at least in some corners. But is all that really necessary? Let's welcome to MidPoint the chairman and CEO of Patriarch Equity and DigitalMarketing.com, Eric Schiffer joins us. Eric, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Ed. Good to see you.
Here we go, Eric. We're number two. Number two, baby. Should we really be that worried about being number two?
Well, the real question is, are we truly number two? The IMF uses this data, but most economists really question whether or not this is really true data. It's based on a report called the Purchasing Power Parity. And what it looks at is the ability to purchase and the total number of goods and services against what a consumer can actually purchase in that locale, okay? And so the challenge with that is it really doesn't look at it on a per capita basis against the GDP. So when you begin to look at on a per capita basis, meaning per head, average person in America against the average person in China, and what the actual gross domestic product is versus the gross domestic product in China, we trounce China almost 9-1. It's, you know, the average GDP is like $50,000 per person against China, which is about 5,000. Now, granted, there are a lot more people in China. However, when you just look at the total gross domestic product overall for the U.S. against China, we still trounce. So this report, while it's important in terms of waking up the U.S. even further, the fact that we need to find ways to become even more efficient, we still are the top dog, in my opinion, and according to most economists that I certainly interact with.
All right, now, a couple minutes we have here. Two things come right to mind that we have to add to this. One, and you pointed this out, the Chinese economic dominance is not absolute. And number two, there's an awful lot of debt on the books that's driving this thing. So it's not exactly like it's all free and clear cash.
There's a lot of debt. The other thing in these numbers is that with the U.S., we typically subtract our debt from our gross domestic product. But in China, much of the debt is not subtracted. In fact, they consider it not to be able to be written off, which is not necessarily the case. In fact, when you look throughout China, there are a lot of projects, in fact, many cities that have been built through a lot of debt that are truly empty. I mean, there are many condominiums and apartment buildings and commercial buildings that have not been rented out that will likely be written off over the next 5 to 10 years. In fact, I'm predicting to see almost a 25% drop in real estate values over the next 5 to 6 years in China. So again, another big factor. It's been a factor for behind the growth of the United States, behind China. But at the same time, when you look at the United States, we also have found ways to prop our economy up and grow it. I do believe, however, that the United States is in a strong position to continue its growth for some time to come.
And about 30, 40 seconds we have left here, something else. I mean, the labor market right now is on fire.
The labor market is doing very well. Which is nice to see. We've got great numbers. And in China, what's interesting, and a lot of people don't know this in the U.S., is that they're actually slowing down. So they've been normally at anywhere from 7.5% to 8% growth. I think you're going to see almost 7%. We could even see a slide back into 6.5% growth. So while the United States is beginning to pick up, you're going to see a slowdown in China in terms of overall growth. It's an interesting, country. They are absolutely doing better than a lot of people predicted that they would for a communist country. Yet it's really, truly not necessarily a communist country in the sense that it's capitalistically driven. It's a command and control economy. And there are things that we can learn from this. We have to run our country here through vast amounts of committees, where they're making a lot of decisions and executive decisions through this command and control capability.
They're just doing
You ask any entrepreneur if they have to make decisions through a committee if they're going to be effective, and most will tell you no.
They're just doing it a lot easier, but fear not, America. Don't put away your foam-fingered number ones just yet. Eric Schiffer, thanks so much for joining us.
We're still the top dog. Absolutely.
I'll take that. Thanks a lot, Eric. MidPoint continues.